The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. So last week we were in Austria. This week we have flown all the way to somewhere in Florida. Actually, I'm not quite sure where in Florida we are, but we are in Florida for tonight's race at the Sebring International Raceway. The airport turned racetrack, a famous race that in the current world in iRacing, we're going to be doing the 12 hours here this week. So this is going to be a big practice session for these drivers in the Red Sox Racing League. Who will come out on top? Well, let's find out together. Welcome everybody to PTR TV for tonight's race of the Red Sox Racing League at Sebring, race number 2 in their Spring GT3 Series number 2 here on the evening. Gonna be myself, Corey Silva, in the booth, and I do have a colleague here on the evening, Bradley Dalton, who just worked with me in Pensacola for the E-Car Series and took the fastest transportation America has to offer to take us down here to Sebring, where we'll have 30 minutes of GT3 action. So obviously, as you know, Bradley, the 12 hours of Sebring on iRacing coming up this week. Well, in that case, it's going to be a little wet. Here in the Red Sox Racing League, we're doing this in the dry, and we'll see the best that these drivers have to offer.
Yeah, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, and RIP to anybody who plans on running an official 12-hour session this weekend, because the rain is here, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very glad to see the Red Sox Racing League has decided to stick away from the rain, and I'm kind of happy with it, because Sebring in itself is enough of a challenge. The bumps, the lumps, it's a hard track as it is, and we don't need rain to make it more difficult, and it's gonna be some good action all the way through. I'm looking forward to this. GT3 is my bread and butter. The road courses are something I love, and for those of you who haven't heard me before, road courses are something I love.
Yeah, road course by nature, and the Red Sox Racing League is messing around with rain, but in a different. They're not going to be racing in a pouring connotation. They're going to more have kind of a wet practice and maybe a little bit of rain to start, and kind of the drying line, which I think is actually pretty cool, rather than racing in downpours. That was tested, but decided to delay it for a little bit here. But qualifying is currently underway, and we do have Ryan Robertson on track. We didn't see him last week, but with the Red Sox Racing League, you do get a drop week in this 6-week campaign. So Robertson, obviously a multi-time champion in many facets, many different types of racing we've had. He had his drop week last week, but he's at it here this week. And then Mark Kadrowski, only 6 100s back. And I know you don't know these guys there, Bradley, but just looking at the chart, you can tell that this is a highly practiced circuit. These times, top 5 within 0.2 of a second. And this is not a short track, 3.6 miles around this place, and to have time separated by 2 to 3/10 for your top 5 that's just bonkers.
Yeah, I don't need to know these guys very well to know that is bonkers. Just looking at the times, it tells me all I need to know. These guys are very well experienced. They know what they're looking at. They know what they're looking to race, and they are here to put it down. I mean, and it doesn't matter really what car they're in, from what I can tell. It looks like we've got an Audi up front with a Ferrari, with a BMW. I mean, none of these guys up in the front that I can see are running the same car, so I don't see even one car dominating. So these guys here in Red Sox really seem to know what's going on, and they seem to be comfortable here at Sebring, which, if any of them are planning on running the 12 hours coming up, this is just going to be a good warm-up for them.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, I guess, again, the forecast for that race is, I think, 90% chance of rain. So I mean, they'll get their hot laps in, and hopefully the track will dry, but, you know, they'll get their true colors of what Sebring does have to offer here tonight. Tommy Ryan, he has won races on the season, and he's only back by about a tenth of a second as he will come into the pits. Mark Wilson, he won at Fuji a few seasons ago. I've been covering these guys for the better part of 6 to 7 years there, Bradley, so when I say that these races blend in and it's hard to remember who won what, you got to understand, I've been probably doing almost 200 of these races, but Mark Wilson did win a few seasons ago at Fuji, a winner in the series and a former champion. But the thing that I'm looking for, Mitch Heller, he is one of our go-tos. He is someone who has, you know, really taken charge, always fast. He's not making mistakes anymore. He's typically running away with many of these races. He's relegated back to 7th. But I got to cut him a little bit of slack. He's only back by about a second and a half, I think that is. Yep. So actually, that's more than I thought. So for someone of a top stature to be that far off is a little concerning for him.
It's the Alpine livery slowing him down. That's the only thing I can tell you is that if there's anything slowing him down, it's one, it's the fact he's in a Ferrari, and 2, it's an Alpine livery. And yes, that is a diss on both Alpine and Ferrari, but. No, it's kind of, the thing is, like, he's back in 8th, but he's not that far back in terms of times. Like, he's still in a competitive place, and the thing is, qualifying measures a 1-lap pace, and when you look at this, you know, over a 30-minute race, you don't necessarily need to drive a fast, you know, a 2-minute. You need to be able to carry, you know, maybe it's a 2:01 that you carry for 30 minutes. So these guys are, you know, even though he's qualifying down in 8th, I still think you could count him into a pretty high point here. Les Turner coming around, getting ready to head down Sunset Bend at the end of the Ullman Straight here. This bumpy, tricky little section, and look at how hard the car bounces. You can see he's trying to work the brakes a little bit, get that car around in the Batman Audi, and brings it across.
Well, no, he's bailing on it. Dave Hill in that number 13 car. He is currently in the 5th spot on the pylon. Only, well, actually, the times were a lot closer. And then, as I was kind of preempting you, Ryan Robertson is one of the dominators of the series. Well, he threw a banger on the board there, 2-minute flat nearly. I was like, these times are separated by just a few hundredths of a second. Well, now he has a 7/10 buffer in the bank over second place. So someone just pulled the extra gear out. He pulled the NOS, and he's like, I ain't giving you guys a chance after all.
Yeah, he's probably watching the stream and just wanted to say, these guys thought. Which is something that racers typically do to us, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, what is a broadcast if the commentator is not wrong? So things that just happen on a weekly basis here. But that puts Heller back to 8th. Robert Seneville, he's I don't think he's new to the league, but he's newish to me there. Scrolling back, you know, we got Reed Rundle on track in the Little Caesars. Is he the Little Caesars car today? No, he's not the Little Caesars car. That's because I pointed it out. Of course, he changes it. He's there on track. You got Scott Husted there in the 12th spot. And good-sized field. We got 23 cars here that have turned a lap, 24 registered, but one has not. So still 24 cars. Should be a good show as we got a minute left, and then the warm-ups, the cool-down lap that these guys are availed.
Yeah, as we go here to the end of qualifying, everybody's got just enough time to try to put in another lap here. And Ryan Robertson, you can see, trying to still improve his time and find a little bit faster than that 2-minute flat. Mark Kudrowski, who is it I mean, it's doable. The Audi should be able to give him just enough compliance here around Sebring to make his way through. As you see him on your screen now, and it's going to be hard to beat that 2-minute flat. He's going to have basically the perfect lap, and that might not be the way to do it, but I have to give him an A+ for effort.
And of course, Sebring, one of those tracks that iRacing did just retroactively add the 3D curbs in. And I was trying to go through some of my static shots here, and there are a few of them that are kind of those rumble, there's a fancy word for it, and my buddy Kyle Heyer will kill me for not knowing what they are, but you can see there to the inside of the screen, they're kind of those up and downy curbs. There's a very sophisticated name for it that I cannot think of what it is. but they're no longer just a smooth surface that kind of just has, you know, generic force feedback over it. It actually, your car will undulate over every single one of those curb elevation changes there, which can throw the car off. It's one of the tracks that they're going to start going to more and more tracks, retroactively doing it at Sebring here, one of the new 3D curb circuits.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that they did it to Sebring here right before the 12 hours of Sebring coming up, as they're really trying to get these tracks ready for the big events as the big events come up, which I respect, but it is also a little frustrating at the same time every once in a while. We're watching this Porsche here go through, and you know, the Porsche is a tricky GT3 car, if I can get my words through. Reed Rundle here trying to run around in this number 43 and Harley Davidson colors. I do like this livery a lot on this Porsche.
And he's usually in the Little Caesars car, but again, just because I said that, that would mean it has changed here. Another car on circuit here. We got Jerry Miller there, and that the big boy BMW, of which he is, there's 3 of them here today. Usually there's only maybe 1 or 2 at most. Looks like Bryce Moyer and then Mark Adgy there. 21st and 22nd also running in the BMW here, but the qualifying timer, I think this is actually the cool down, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of didn't pay attention to the changeover, so I think we are in the cool down. So if this is a live lap, it still can count here, and this is Mark Wilson. Let's see, this will be another flyer. This will count a 2:01.6. That will not best his time. He ran a 2:01.3 earlier, and he will park it.
A minute to go here in the cool down. At this point, everybody just needs to get their last laps in here as we see Reed Rundle rumbling his way around Sunset Bend. And Sunset Bend, I think, is going to be where we see a lot of action come up. If we're going to see it, you can see he's around through into the pits, and that VP pit speed limiter sign there gets it slowed down and is going to just trundle his way through. 30 seconds left to go in this thing, and oh my gosh, that's a beautiful camera. I love that top down of the start finish line.
Look at ours. Just got our scenic cam on here for the last few seconds here. Let's quickly go over our weather here in virtual Florida. I believe it's static conditions, so 78 air with that 82 track. I believe they're still using static conditions. I don't think that has changed yet. Perhaps when we do ingratiate weather, that will change. In our race details, we do have the limited fuel load, 1 fast repair, and then the points penalties per incident, as well as the points penalty if you do not make it back to the pits on the cool down lap after the checkers under your own power here. So typically doesn't come into play, but pit stops and that timing under pit road will certainly come into play here today. But these guys are down on the track for their starting lineup, so let's go down and give it to you, and let's see where these drivers are firing off here tonight. Ryan Robertson with that flyer, 2 minutes .392. Looks like Kedrowski nearly closed in on him, got to within a half second there in second. Third, we have Tommy Ryan with the Sheldon Rosenbaum, or as I consolidated, Sheldon Baum, in the 4th spot. We got Dave Hill and then Mark Wilson in the Stunner Shades there in the 6th spot. Robert Seneville in 7th, and a very poor starting spot to his standard. Mitch Heller back there at 8th. Rounding out your top 10, league admin Les Turner, and then Reed Rundle. We were just following him. He's back in 10th.
Going on P11 here, Scott Husted, and then in P12, Jim Graziano. Going through P13, it is Todd Merrim Pietri. That's what I've been saying, and he hasn't corrected me, so. Merrim Pietri, you're giving me the hard names here, Corey. And then Nathan Lafayette in P14, P15, Jerry Mueller, and Kevin Kyle in P16, P17, JP Phillips, and then Dwayne McCarthy in P18. P19 is Bill Paulucki and Ed Sutcliffe in P20.
And we got, I believe, 3 more. Bryce Moyer in 21st with Mark Adgy in 22nd. Jeff Ryan in 23rd. And I don't think Brian Irby is going to race, but if he is, he will be shotgun on the field in the 24th spot. The pace truck is rolling here. We will have a very, very abbreviated pace lap here because, as you said there, we are already on the final straightaway. We will go through Sunset Bend off of the Ullman Straight, And Barney the flagman will get us underway for the run into turn number 1. Red Sox Racing League Spring GT3 Series number 2 underway here. Let's get it going from the bumpy airport of Sebring. Green flag in the air. Let's go off into turn number 1.
Yeah, you can see everybody already jockeying around a little bit in the midfield, looking around, but up front, it is nice and collected here as we go through. This is the dive through turn 1, a very, very 90-degree left-hander that narrows through and gets us onto the road course portion here from the airport. And now as we hit through turn 3, 4, 5 here, going into Big Bend. And for the most part, Ryan Robertson is just going to run away with it there. Tommy Ryan in P2 in the Ferrari trying to keep up. And it is Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche as we go with an Audi in P4 of Mark Kondrowski.
Yeah, he is settling in there by his lonesome as everybody does funnel through into the hairpin underneath the Advent Health Bridge. You see a couple guys pulling out a line there. I think that's in the realm of Scott Husted there. I saw a car to his inside. We got SpaghettiOs with that's Jim Graziano getting passed by Nathan Lafayette there in the back of the pack here. But the thing that I'll be interested in seeing is where is the time differential going to be up front? Ryan Robertson had such a good qualifying lap. Is that going to be the pace that continues lap to lap? Or is somebody going to find the magic ticket here? You see Tommy Ryan did get into second. Kondrowski drops back to fourth. And the gap within a half second. And as we know there, Bradley, the slipstream range tends to be right around half a second to about 0.7 of a second. So if you could stay within that range, heading off Le Mans curve onto the Ullman Straight, you may be able to make some time up heading into Sunset Bend.
Yeah, that's going to be the key, is just sticking together through Tower and Bishop, coming out of Le Mans, and then when you hit the Ullman Straight, stay in that slipstream to run, because you need to also stick behind on Sunset Bend here and try to hold on a little bit closer, because then going down the main straight into 1, you can try to have a pass through. And as we see these 3 up front packed very close together, but again, Ryan Robertson just seems there's something in that car that he seems to have that's given him just enough pace to go through, as we are just a few minutes in and everybody's fairly calmed down here early on, single file, and it looks like everybody's just trying to get a groove, get an early feel on here into this 30 minutes of racing.
Well, I'll tell you what's in that number 210 car. And this goes back to a Ray Evernham quote from the mid-90s. Everybody was accusing Jeff Gordon of being a cheater back in the day. And you know what Ray Evernham said? He said, there is something special in that DuPont car that makes it go fast. It's Jeff Gordon. Well, that same sentence can be applied to Ryan Robertson, and that's because we are racing in fixed setups. So the only thing that's making that 210 faster, maybe it's a little bit of track bias. Maybe that Porsche is handling better at Sebring. Maybe it has the slight BOP win here at Sebring, but just the skill of that 210 car is just overcoming a lot of situations here. And again, that gap staying about half a second over Tommy Ryan. Tommy Ryan, someone who has won races within this series in the past, so he is not going to go down without a fight, as is Dave Hill, Kondrowski, and Sheldon Rosenbaum. But as we use our timing and kind of go back through the mid-pack, seeing if stuff is still going on, you see Dwayne McCarthy, 003, closing in on Jerry Mueller. A very bright yellow car there for Dwayne McCarthy, as just behind him is Kevin Kyle in the red, white, and blue car.
Kevin Kyle in that Alpine livery Ferrari, trying to just catch up, stick to the back here, and keep things consistent. Everybody, again, just trying to stay nice and smooth, especially over the bumps, the curbs, the serrated edges there of the curbs, and just trying to stay consistent lap after lap. The thing about this 30-minute race is it feels short, but it's a little bit longer than you think, and you don't want to get in your own head and ruin your race 5 minutes in. You want to make it the full 30 minutes through if you can. And look at this. This is going to be a move up front here. This is going to be, I believe, Mark Kondrowski there in 4th place in the Audi, trying to get a run on Dave Hill in 3rd place there in that number 13. And he seemed to have had some good slipstream down Ullman Straight. Coming out of Sunset Bend, though, it looks like all that momentum stopped here. And here's turn 1. You've got to be real close to that wall there on the left-hand side as you hit the actual track section in through 2, 3, 4, 5.
Up down to second gear, about 60 miles an hour. A lot of bumps, a lot of switchbacks, a lot of curbs here, heading through this very, very technical section of the circuit. And then you go underneath the bridge and get yourself ready for the hairpin through Gurney Bend into the hairpin. And underneath the Mobile 1 Advent Health Bridge, hard on the binders here for a right-hand corner, and you can see there, gains a little bit of time, a little bit of sand there. That guys will kick up over time, just about right there. A little bit of a flick through the chicane, and then now we head into Cunningham Corner.
Yeah, and as we head down through, everyone just stays nice and consistent and smooth. And again, it's a hard right-hander here yet again, and you can see the car is still just trying to hold on. This is through Bishop going into Le Mans, and of course, as we hit Bishop through Le Mans and around, these guys are just nice and close. The Audi gets a little loose though, and look at that. Sheldon Rosenbaum is right there to capitalize, and that is the key to this, is one little mistake and you can drop down in tons of time, lose tons of time, and be very, very unfortunate to drop back. And now Mark Kudrowski will try to get running here and catch back up to Sheldon Rosenbaum, and Sheldon Rosenbaum is going to just want to try to run away, break that slipstream, and draft his way up to Dave Hill as he can.
Now I do have a trigger of a potential incident that may have happened over time, so let me go ahead and check that out. This is Mark Adji here. He spun out in Sunset Bend, and somebody nearly snuck by to the outside, running by himself there at the back of the pack there. Just got loose by his lonesome, but he will manage to get back on circuit here. No harm, no immediate no harm, no foul there, other than just losing some track position. But Tommy Ryan, you know, we talked about, is that Q pace something that Robertson can sustain? Well, I don't know if the answer to that has been figured out yet, but what I can tell you is that Tommy Ryan and Dave Hill have found the back bumper of that Porsche, that number 210, and they are ready to pounce here.
I think Robertson may be playing a little bit of momentum gain and a little bit of conservation on tires and fuel, and just not going flat out, because the thing with Sebring is it can get a little tricky to pass. You've got to be a little bit brave to try to get a pass done here. So I think Robertson knows that and is going to be just conserving a little bit here, especially through the traditional racetrack portion if you're not on the Ullman Straight and the Sunset Bend. So I think that is what may be going on in the front here as we watch Mitch Heller, who is still stuck in 8th place, trying to get past Centerville in P7.
Yeah, has not moved anywhere. As you said, stuck in that 8th spot, and not something that expected to see out of him. I expect to see him, and that's just the pressure, you know, that a guy gets put on him when he is up front every week. Now a top 10 is nothing to, you know, scoff at, especially when there's 23 cars in the race. The top 10 is nothing to scoff at. But when you're used to being a top 3 guy and you're not in the top 3, that's where the questions are asked. What's wrong? Do you not like this track? Is there something wrong? Are you not mentally in it today? Or, you know, maybe this track is just not his cup of tea. So, and that's just the pressure he gets put on himself, and you know, he'll try to get the most he can get out of it. Still 22 minutes and still a pit stop to be had.
Yeah, with 22 minutes of a pit stop, I'm not too concerned right now for Mitch Heller. I think it's just going to be a case of slowly working the way back forward. And what I am really worried about, though, is Ryan Robertson. Ryan Robertson, again, just doesn't seem to be as fast as I thought he was in qualifying here, with Tommy Ryan and Dave Hill right on the back there. And Sheldon Rosenbaum is not that far off either, just about a second. And look at the pace difference here. Look at that. Dave Hill currently sitting with a 201.6, 201.4 for Rosenbaum, 201.5 for Kudrowski, and it's a 201.7 for Robertson and a 201.9 for Tommy Ryan on their last lap. So, I mean, there's some pace difference to be found through the field.
Makes you wonder, and we do have JP Phillips in the pits as well. I don't know if anything happened. It doesn't look like it, but it is a little early to be having those required pit stops, though. I mean, we've seen strategy. I've seen guys come in as early as probably 5 minutes in, and I've guys run it all the way to the end. So the strategies are always at play here, and this is one of those leagues there, Bradley, that because it is a fuel, you know, consumption league with the limited fuel load, every second in the pits, every 10th of a second in the pits amounts to time on the racetrack. So you will have guys underfueling, and they'll get that time on track, but then maybe they underfuel too much. Maybe they have to save. And then you have the guys who overfuel and can't come up with and overcome the time gap.
Yeah, and a lot of people watching are going to be thinking, they're going to be wondering, and if it's your first time seeing something like this, you're going to think, well, why does the fuel make a difference? Fuel is weight and weight is speed. The more weight you have, the slower you go, and the less fuel you have on board, the less weight you have, and it kind of all correlates.
And another thing, fuel is time. The more fuel that goes in, the longer you're sitting still when everybody else is going fast. And it's, as we always know in racing, it's easier to pass them in the pits than it is to pass them at full song on the racing circuit here. So you really want to make sure that you get that fuel calculator. Some guys will use third-party tools, some guys will use the iRacing auto fuel, and some guys just flat out use the old noggin. How much do I need? And I need to make sure once that threshold is hit, I'm on my way, because I don't want to lose time to the guys that I am battling with.
Yeah, and I think some of that too settles down to just the driver preference and how much the driver knows what they're doing. Because if you're a driver who is truly practiced, you know what you're running and you know what your fuel consumption per lap is. So you already know in your head what you're going to do. You've already mapped out your strategy before you even start the race. And the only thing you have to do is kind of just respond as the race goes to what happens on track and any incidents that may occur, and you respond accordingly to that. So I hope nobody's trying to fuel calculate on the fly. I hope they all came in with some sort of an idea of what's going on, but you never know. And again, things can change depending on weather, track conditions, where you're at, how your race goes.
Yeah, with these guys up front right now, as tight as they are, there's not going to be wiggle room. You're going to have to nail the stop here, and there's not much driver involvement here. Like, there's some tracks that, getting to the pits, you almost have to go through chicanes and narrow pit entry lanes. Here at Sebring, it is a pretty straightforward pit, so, you still have to get down to your stall. You have to get down to speed, make sure you get out and back at a timely manner. But here comes Tommy Ryan. He took a tighter corner there through Le Mans, and now he's going to be certainly within slipstream range here coming down the Ullman Straight. I don't think he's going to have enough to make an optimistic dive into Sunset, but he is going to be close enough to make that 210 think in the rearview mirror.
I mean, look at that. He's right on the back, and he is going to go for the move. He goes for it through Sunset Bend up the inside. They're going to be side by side on the exit of Sunset Bend, and as we run down the main straight here, who can come out ahead? It's side by side down across the line at the moment. It is still Robertson in the lead, but for how much longer? He's got the inside into turn one, though, and I think that will give him just enough of an advantage. Tommy Ryan has to back out, but that number 210 of Ryan Robertson very much on alert now.
Yes, he is, and Dave Hill is just licking his chops and just trying to figure out, where to go, what to do. And again, this is a league that you don't expect contact. This is a league where the utmost respect is given between everybody. So everybody will give space. Everybody will, ensure that contact is absolutely mitigated unless it's just inevitable. So that's just kind of a fun thing to deal with. Just on the back of the shot there, you do have Sheldon Rosenbaum and Mark Kudrowski. Looking a little bit further back, you can see Centerville, Mitch Heller still hasn't moved. Reed Rundle back there in 9th. Les Turner in the Batmobile hanging on in the 10th spot. We did have a couple pit stops. Todd Pietri did retire from the event. I don't have any cues as to why, but I can state that that has happened, as we already, again, almost only a 30-minute race. We're just about at halfway already, Bradley.
Yeah, halfway through, and this is the point where the drivers need to start thinking about that mandatory pit stop and about what they're going to do to relieve that. I think most of these guys are going to wait till a lot closer to the end, but hey, halfway is not a bad decision either, depending on what you've calculated with fuel and different decisions here. As we see, Robertson is under a lot of pressure right there in the mix with Tommy Ryan and Dave Hill as we come out of Le Mans onto Ullman Straight yet again. And here we go. And then look behind, Rosenbaum and Kudrowski are going to have a bit of a battle right behind. But watch on board here with Dave Hill. Dave Hill is just going to sit and watch Tommy Ryan again slowly closing. He's going to look for the send up the inside, maybe a little bit further back than he wanted to be last time, and can't get it through. They're not side by side. Ryan Robertson hanging it wide there in the Porsche to try to use all the track. And as we run down into turn one, Tommy Ryan still trying to find a way to make a pass happen.
Yes, he is. And he got the run on Sunset Bend, but he didn't clear, and that put him on the opposite side of the track once they got down the front straightaway and into turn number 1. And switchbacks would be the curse of some of these drivers. And if you like what you see this week, next week is going to be one of the most difficult tracks that we'll go to in quite some time. Mid-Ohio, track nowhere close to here. Bradley will not be with me next week, but I think he would be on alternating weeks this season, if I'm not mistaken. So the next time you'll hear Bradley's voice on a Red Sox broadcast, we'll be at the classic Watkins Glen International, which I've never had a race at Watkins Glen that do not throw on a phenomenal race, and we'll round out the season with Hockenheim and Long Beach middle of April. So stay tuned for the remainder of this schedule. And Mark Kedrowski and Sheldon Rosenbaum, every time I see them, they are within a car length, almost drafting in a sense, trying to close in on that top pack, who they are about 2 seconds behind.
Yeah, these guys need to work together a little bit if they can. Kedrowski and Rosenbaum need to kind of just settle into a groove here and see if they can't find some time to the cars ahead, because it doesn't seem to me, just from observation, that Robertson, Ryan, and Hill are that much faster than Rosenbaum and Kedrowski. I think it is genuinely just Rosenbaum and Kedrowski are battling it out and kind of keeping each other in a little bit of chaos here. And look at the gap that Robertson started to pull here with 14 minutes to go now. He has started to just open up the door here, and Tommy Ryan and Dave Hill are very, very close to battling. And I think these two are going to be the next run down the Ulman Straight here that you need to keep your eyes on going into Sunset Bend.
Yeah, and the gap for Robertson has eclipsed 1 second, and as I was saying a little bit earlier, typically the slipstream range kind of starts to exponentially fade out right around that 0.7 of a second point. So if he's getting anything now, it's only a slight whiff, and it's not going to be enough to actually amount to some time gain there. So Ryan's going to have to dig in his back pocket here and try to find some secret sauce here, get that gap a little bit closer. And we know he has it in him, but at a track like this, with all the bumps, with all the switchbacks, with all the aggressive curbs, this is a track where consistency is very difficult to replicate, and that could be the difference between running that lap that gets you right to his back bumper and then falling a second back the next time around.
Yeah, and I think that kind of inverses as well, is if Robertson has a bad lap, things are going to close up and then things are going to go through. And more drivers into the pits here, which I'm not surprised to see. And here we go. Look at this. That is that number. Who was that?
That's Kedrowski and Sheldon there.
Yeah, come on, these two continue to be neck and neck battling, and again, they're letting that gap open up to Dave Hill and Tommy Ryan as they battle. And I like a good battle, but I also, 5 would be more than 3, which would mean more action and a lot better of a battle.
When we go back to the mid-teens, because as I said, these guys in the mid-teens do tend to put on a great show themselves. Got Bill Pollucky in the orange car, in the orange Ferrari. Looks like a Ferrari trio right here. Then we have Kevin Kyle, and actually not a trio, because Ed Sutcliffe is another Ferrari, but he's out of the shot there, all trying to get by Dwayne McCarthy in the Merc there, which the Merc and the BMW are the big boys here at a very narrow track, so that makes things a little bit more difficult to get by, but those guys are carrying on just fine. And then Sheldon has lost a little bit of time to Mark Kedrowski. No, Kedrowski finally managed to get around. He missed that pass, but Kedrowski got around. He was quick in practice, but unfortunately now he's 4 seconds off the pace, 4 seconds off the lead, and that's going to be a lot to come across in only about 10, 11 minutes of action, and we're still not seeing these leaders make the break into the pits.
Yeah, the leaders are hanging it out long, but I think that Kedrowski broke into the pits there on the exit of Sunset Bend, and as we just keep going, we see more cars going through, and Kedrowski is going to try for an undercut here. I'm pretty excited to see how that one goes.
We got Sonneville in, we got Graziano, so some 3 drivers in the back. So again, no tires will be had. I mean, there's just not enough time for them to make any difference here, so it is strictly fuel, and we will pull up our pit graphics and such to see what's the amount of time that these guys are taking here. This will kind of be the threshold of sorts. 9.1 seconds in the pits for fuel, and then 33 seconds of pit lane time. That is our bar right now, and we will see how that shakes out with the leaders. And of course, you don't want to have that speeding penalty. As I said, you don't want to overfuel. You got to get up to speed. You got to have a good clean in and out lap. So all that stuff at play, and as these races tick down with competition, it just puts the stress on and nail it.
Yeah, the competition of the pit lane is really where things are. And thankfully for these drivers in iRacing, they don't need to worry about their pit crews making errors. It's just they need to hit their marks and stop in their pit box, which is something that is easier said than done. And I'm sure all these drivers have practiced it somewhere to make sure they're nice and comfortable with it. I'm still watching this Tommy Ryan-Robertson battle because Tommy Ryan is not having any luck getting past Ryan Robertson and getting caught back up. He's still just outside of a second here, losing time going down the Oldham Straight. I mean, you can't get closer to him, which is very, very surprising to me.
He managed to get to within 3/4 of a second through the middle of the track, but then off the final section there, just managed to lose a little bit. I think the draft may have helped him because it did go to within a second towards the end of the Ullman Straight. But let's see if the break is made into the pits. It is not. And again, that gap staying right at 1 second. Dave Hill is just starting to lose touch. In fact, I think he has lost touch at about 2.5 seconds back. Sheldon Rosenbaum has made a pit stop. Yes, he has.
Someone spinning in the background?
Yeah, I did see something there. I believe that may have been Reed Rundle, based on my telemetry. I believe that actually is correct. He is in, got loose and just kissed the Armco there. Not the Armco, the jersey barrier, but lost some time, but the car's still in one piece.
Yeah, and that was a case of the car tried to go right, he put in left lock, and then the car gripped up and said, oh, you want to go left? We go left now.
And once it bit, she bit, and she bit quick, and unfortunately went around for him, but he is in the pits. Les Turner just exiting the pit. Scott Husted, Reed Rundle, as we just saw. So we're just waiting on the top 7 at this point. They have yet to come to the attention of their crews, and we are on lap 11 of an estimated 15, and that's only 4 laps, but 4 laps at a track with as many turns as here is not something that flies by in an instant. You still have to manage to get by and still be on full alert here, but it looks like it's going to be a matter of the top 2. You can see there on the timer, look at there, Bradley, 3/4 of a second. This is the part of the track Tommy succeeds on. But once we get through Gendy and Bend there into Lamar and ultimately onto Lamont, that's just where it seems that Robertson gets that run and stretches it out a little bit.
Yeah, Robertson's getting a very, very good exit out of Le Mans. I think part of that is just due to the nimbleness of the Porsche. The Porsche on low fuel is very, very
it ain't raining. I just saw maybe there's so much dirt on there, but here he comes down to the pits, and look at him. He tried to use as much as he could to close in. That's always risky, trying to race to the cone. If it works, it's very beneficial, but the risk of it backfiring with a speeding penalty is that much higher. But let's see what is happening. I can let you know most drivers taking about 10.5 seconds of fuel. So Kedrowski did undercut there with a 9.1. That camera is utterly useless. But that camera is also hey, Rolex, this is an ad for Rolex.
An ad for Rolex. So look at that. Robertson's right out there. Tommy Ryan came out as well, but it's going to be a little bit further back.
8 seconds.
Man, that's a...
Now remember, he's pitting later, so the later you pit, the less fuel you do need. That is just pure mathematics there, but that 0.8 of a second lead has now ballooned up to nearly 2.5 seconds, and now Dave Hill has caught back up to the back bumper of Tommy Ryan through that cycle as well, and only 7.7 seconds of fuel for Dave Hill.
Yeah, Tommy Ryan is under some pressure right now and is really going to be feeling it in this Ferrari, because right behind him is a very, very hungry Dave Hill. And Dave Hill looks to be fairly fast in that car, in that Porsche. So if I'm Tommy Ryan right now, I am fingers crossed that the next 6 minutes goes very quick. And here's some Ferrari on Ferrari action.
Paul Lucky in the orange car, getting by Kevin Kyle, 16th and 17th. That battle has eclipsed, but +1 for Paul Lucky. Paul Lucky, he snuck out a class win at Spa some point ago. It might have been like 4 seasons. I don't even remember, but I know it happened. Again, we do 6 race seasons here in the Red Sox series. 6 race seasons, typically a week or 2 off in between, up to a month, depending on circumstance. So that's, I don't know, about 8-10 seasons a year, something like that. So these races, they all blend in, but I do remember some little random facts and stuff here and there. Dave Hill closing in on Tommy Ryan. Again, 2.5 seconds, so Ryan Robertson definitely taking advantage of that pit cycle. You have Rosenbaum by about half a second back on Kedrowski there. Mark Wilson, he is about a second behind that. Heller has gone +1, only up to the 7th spot, but he is +1 on the day. Senneville, Les Turner, and then Scott Husted rounding out our top 10 here as we eclipse the 25-minute mark in tonight's race.
Yeah, drivers continuing to stay just consistent and relaxed. And Ryan Robertson here in the lead is probably the most relaxed driver on track here, as he knows he's got just about 3 laps to go here, realistically. Tommy Ryan still under pressure there from Dave Hill. And riding on board with Dave Hill, you can see that Dave Hill is trying anything possible. And look at the delta there. 225.9 by Tommy Ryan and a 224.1 by Dave Hill. But Dave Hill's still not past Tommy Ryan, despite giving it the old college try here.
Yeah, keeping that gap at a solid 0.2 of a second, maybe 3 at most. And when you get that close, it's just hard because you can't really focus on your line. You kind of have to, focus on your line, but you're kind of stuck to what the guy in front of you is doing until you're able to get a run. And then you can get by and run your own pace. But there's certain corners of the track there. You can tell Tommy Ryan a little bit slow there, and that really slowed up Dave Hill, but there's nothing he can do. That wasn't a passing opportunity. He had to blend down to the speed of Tommy Ryan. Looks like maybe Tommy has upset those tires. Just doesn't have what he had, if English works, earlier when he was chasing Ryan there. But either way, second, worst case a third, still nothing to pout about.
Yeah, being on the podium, especially after 30 minutes of Sebring, with a mandatory pit stop included, is not a small feat. Sebring is a very challenging, tricky track, and we've seen a couple of these guys, even though they have tons of experience, lose it in Sunset Bend just from the bumps. So running Sebring for 30 minutes consistently enough to finish on the podium is a big deal, and these guys should be very happy with it. And there's Rosenbaum still trying to chase down Mark Kedrowski, and they're not that far separated either coming out of the Ullman straight through Sunset Bend. They're very, very close, and I am going to say that this battle is going to go all the way to the end here. 3 minutes left to go, so we can kind of officially say 2 laps.
Yeah, just about that. We'll we have a little ticker estimator, and it does confirm that 2 laps to go, so that's what we got on the docket. And again, next week at Mid-Ohio, a very, very narrow, very technical circuit, a ton of elevation change. This place is basically flat. So next week's race will be a true test for these guys. Track that I don't think I have ever had any success at Mid-Ohio. So stay tuned to next week for the Red Sox Racing League for their go there at the track in Lexington, Ohio. But coming through the last sector of the track, and again, the lap times here right around 2 minutes, and yeah, we will cross the stripe probably in the realm of, I'd say, about 1:45, 1:30, somewhere in that ballpark. So certainly we will be chasing the white flag lap, and Robertson pushing about a 3-second lead. Does appear as such that Dave Hill has lost a little bit of ground and kind of cementing himself in that 3rd spot.
Yeah, David Hill is very comfortably in P3. Nothing crazy going on. P2 there, Tommy Ryan finally getting a little bit of breathing room, I think, to keep things going. And for the most part, I think these guys understand that there's 1:45 left to go here, and they are just going to breathe to the end here. I don't see anything too crazy happening. It looks like this is a battle a bit further back that we're jumping on board with. This is going to be, that is P8, I believe, of Robert Senneville, if I can tell.
That is a 34 of Graziano. He's in close proximity to Lafayette. The only other battle of within a half second or so is still Paul, Lucky, and Kyle. They flip-flopped, and apparently they flop-flipped to where Kyle is back in front there. So that battle may be coming down and chasing itself towards the last lap. But speaking of last laps here, Ryan Robertson will come on to the front straightaway, and Barney the flagman will give him that white flag here, and we will have one more lap to go around Sebring International Raceway, about 3.7 miles to his first win of this spring GT3 series.
Yeah, Ryan Robertson winning in a very dominant fashion, as long as Ryan Robertson makes it to the end of this lap. And then, of course, has to make it all the way back around under his own power to the pits, which is a rule that I absolutely love as we go through. Tommy Ryan has lost a big gap there, and Dave Hill is an even bigger gap through. Mark Kudrowski, huge gap through, and you can see that these guys up at the front, especially after the pit stops, things have opened up significantly.
Yeah, things have spread out a lot, and I do wonder how much tire wear has come into the play. Last time by, about 6/10 off his elite pace. His best lap is a 2:01.19. Last time by, he ran a 2:01.71. So, wonder how much tire decay is coming into play here. Maybe that is causing those guys who are, such as Tommy Ryan, to slip and slide, lose that comfort, lose that control that they had. Actually, I'll take that back, because Tommy Ryan just ran a PB on the race at a 2:01.24 last time by. So there's still speed to be had. He's just struggling to find it consistently, and oh no! Tommy Ryan, last lap, just bins himself on the podium there as he got loose. We'll very quickly check that out, because we don't have a lot of time. I think he just got the left rear in the sand, and that put him in the wall. And you know, that's why they say you can never write down a race until it's over. So that will put Mark Kudrowski on the podium there as Ryan Robertson come down the Ullman straight for the final time.
Yeah, Ryan Robertson just going through, and that one hurt me. That one hurt me a lot there. That Ferrari is toasted out, but Ryan Robertson with a very dominating win coming around the final couple of corners here. And out of Sunset Bend will come around, flashes the lights for excitement, and that number 210 Porsche will take the checkered flag here at Sebring here in the Spring GT3 series.
Yeah, absolute heartbreak there for Tommy Ryan. Had a second, and he will be relegated back to the 6th spot. And something happened to Mark Wilson, too. I just talked about him being, I think he was in 3rd, but something happened where Mark Kudrowski ends up getting on the podium. I don't know how he got on the podium, but I guess he did. Maybe the timing and scoring was just throwing me off there with all that was going on. But either way, that'll be Robertson, Hill, and Kudrowski on the podium here. So again, in true Red Sox fashion, they do have to make it all the way around here. And we still have about 7-8 guys concluding their race. There's McCarthy, Kevin Kyle, Paul Lucky. Looks like Kyle managed to win that battle. Here comes Ed Sutcliffe and Bryce Moyer, Mark Agee, and I think that just about does it. So with enough comfort here, we can head to the trackside cam, and let's go ahead and give you the final rundown of results here today for the Red Sox Racing League at Sebring International. Getting that race win, and I mean, it looked easy, but it really wasn't. Ryan Robertson stuck it out by ultimately 4 seconds over Dave Hill. Mark Kudrowski is in 3rd, and then Sheldon Rosenbaum with a 4th, Mark Wilson with a 5th, Tommy Ryan with that heartbreak falls from 2nd to 6th. Heller never really moved on the day, not his cup of tea here at Sebring evidently. Centerville, Turner, and Husted rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, moving on from that, P11 Reed Rundle, P12 Nathan Lafayette, P13 Jim Graziano, Jerry Mueller in P14, and then McCarthy in 15th, Kevin Kyle in 16th, Paul Lucky in P17, Sutcliffe in P18, Bryce Moore in P19, and Mark Agee down in P20.
And then just rounding out our 3 drivers left in the grid, we have Ryan Phillips and then Marin Pietri. We don't know what happened to Marin Pietri. I don't have anything that said he crashed, but maybe some emergency happened or we missed something, but he finished shotgun on the field. Well, this is kind of the normality here in the Red Sox League there, Bradley, where, again, they don't really use our Discord server too often. I know Ryan Robertson is someone that we see regularly, and I believe we'll probably get Dave Hill. I don't think I've ever actually had Mark Kudrowski come into the channel here, so we are just kind of playing the good old waiting game here. But what'd you think your first time covering these Red Sox guys? What'd you think of what we saw tonight?
I think these guys are very, very seasoned professionals. You can tell just by watching them run. It's very consistent racing. It's very competitive racing. They don't do anything crazy, but they are always applying pressure and running very, very similar and competitive times.
Yes, they are. And the guy who did that the best, Ryan Robertson, well, I mean, I don't know what your Red Sox career win percentage is at this point. Probably like 80% in your 170th win. Maybe I'm exaggerating that a little bit. But I'll tell you, Tommy Ryan wasn't making it easy on you in that first stint before the pits. He was on you. He made a couple pass attempts. But after that pit stop, man, you just did Ryan things and pulled away. What was that one like for you?
Oh, I mean, you said, I mean, Tommy was on my ass basically the entire first stint. I have to go back and check the lap times, but we were hitting consistent within like a tenth of a second each of our own laps. Like we were both hitting these consistent laps. When one would make a small mistake, the other would capitalize, and yeah, it was he kept me on my toes there, and it was a little scary. Anyway, I had him in the first sector, but that Ferrari's fast in a straight line, so he could catch up on Sunset. So my only hope was getting runs out of there. But no, I mean, overall it was a fun time, and hats off to Tommy for keeping it stuck in there.
And unfortunately for himself, he went from second to sixth on the last lap. He binned it, exiting one of the corners, but that stunk for him. But all in all, these kind of races, Ryan, that align with the big iRacing events, the 12 hours coming this week, everyone comes into a race like this fully practiced and ready to go. Are you running the 12 hour this week? And do you take anything from here, less the rain, to try to help you out there?
I am actually not running the 12, so this was my first set on this on Sebring in a while. So it was a good time, and like, I mean, I always have pretty good luck with Sebring, so just happy I was able to come out and show some good racing.
All right, well, you did just that, man. You didn't stink it up. You won, but you didn't stink it up. So we appreciate that from a broadcast perspective, man. But we'll catch you soon, Mid-Ohio next week. We'll see what you can do.
Thanks. Talk to you later, Court.
See you. And now I will give you Dave Hill for Bradley.
Yeah, Dave Hill, good evening. Started in P5, finished out in P2 in that Porsche. Kind of talk to me about your race here and tell me, how Sebring treated you.
Yeah, I was okay. I was hoping for a top 5, so I'll take a podium. But yeah, I was able to get a good jump off the start, and I think that's what helped out, because it's a pain to try to get around the faster guys on this track. So I just wanted to get out and in front of some of them, get a bit of a gap, and Tommy and I were able to kind of put it together and drive some good laps, and came in, got a good pit stop and back out, and unfortunately he binned it on the last lap there, but yeah, it was a good race following him around the whole time.
Yeah, and you said going into this race you were expecting a top 5 only. Was that just kind of where you thought your pace was, or what was it that kind of made you say, I'm okay with a top 5 tonight?
Yeah, I thought pace-wise I'd be happy with a top 5, but started to lay down some good laps and was able to stay out in front. And my computer crashed right before qualify, so I only got a couple laps in, and I didn't think I was even going to be close, so that started my mind frame at a top 5. But after I was able to get out off the start, I just concentrated on not making too many mistakes and having a good pit, and hopefully stay up there.
Dave, I have to ask about the livery. Top Gun.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a bit of a story, but quick story. For many years, I've been involved with the Toronto Mustang Club, and my handle has always been Ghost Rider since day one, going back to the early 2000s. It was mine and my dad's favorite movie, and he passed away, and ever since then everyone calls me GR or Ghost Rider. They rarely use my real name, so I threw the VF 142 Ghost Rider logo on there, and yeah, I've always had that somewhere on my paint scheme throughout iRacing.
I absolutely love that, Dave. And of course, next week, Mid-Ohio coming up. Look forward to catching you there and seeing what you can do next week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Corey, we will let you catch up with Mr. MK.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Mark there. You started second, but you never really got to stay in that second spot too long. You were kind of stuck in fourth, and then it was you and Sheldon kind of flip-flopping and working together, Dave in there as well. We didn't catch what happened. I was on the static shot. What took you from second there and made you fall back on that initial start?
Yeah, well, I was, I hated starting up from the outside, but I was keeping my eye on Ryan, and I thought I started when he did, and all of a sudden, 2 cars came up and passed me. It's like, oh my God, what? And so I just, they were, the same speed as me, so it's like, just hoped and prayed, and just ended up, not catching them, and then I had a little bit of a, not off, but a little bit of a skid, and Sheldon passed me, and then Nick been tucked the whole way. I was right on his tail, and it's fun, really fun race. And then he got in the dirt, and then I passed him, and then Tommy unfortunately crashed, so I ended up on the podium.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, here you are. And you were certainly fast in practice. I mean, you were right on Ryan's time, and then Ryan flew out a flyer out there, beat you guys by about 7/10, and then you clawed a little bit off of it. I know with the 12-hour, this is one of those tracks everybody is well practiced on. Is this just a track that, once you come here, that confidence is there, and you know that you can hang with Ryan?
Well, I've been getting better and better, actually. So it's like, and more consistent. You got good race pace. I actually had good qualifying this time, but yeah, it's unfortunately I'm not racing the 12 just because I've got other commitments. But maybe next year.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens as we introduce rain here into the series, because I'll tell you that 12-hour is going to be soaked. But next week we head to Mid-Ohio, completely different can of worms there. Very undulating track, very narrow, very winding. What's the confidence level heading into Mid-Ohio next week?
Oh, it's a wild card for me. It's not my best track, so I'll have to practice and see what comes of it.
All right, man. Well, we'll see what you can do here. You snuck yourself onto the podium. Let's see if you can do it. Let's see if you can do it the true way next week.
Okay. See you later. Thanks.
All right. Well, that is going to be a broadcast here on the channel. Red Sox Racing League round number 2 at Sebring. Glad to have you with me. I'll go, Bradley. You'll be with me in alternating weeks this season because you have other commitments. So I will see you at 2 weeks' time in the Finger Lakes region for some Watkins Glen action.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Watkins Glen is going to be awesome. I will be watching next week, though. While I do have other stuff going on, I'll definitely be going back and watching the broadcast after, because I think next week is going to be a very, very interesting race.
It will be indeed. So again, make sure you like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. We just hit 1,200 subscribers, looking for 13. Need your help to get us there. But that's going to be Corey and Bradley signing out of the booth. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.